Now is one of the best times for investors to get started despite high interest rates. My name is Nico Jones. I'm a mortgage loan officer with NEXA Mortgage LLC. In this presentation, I'll walk you through why banks avoid distressed properties, how to profit in a buyer's market, and even how a fix and flip works in a seller's market. So, banks, it's important to know why banks say no to distressed properties. Banks only lend on properties that are move-in ready. The reason being is if there is damage, the bank would run the risk of not being paid due to damage having to be repaired. If there's, say, damages of $25,000 done to a property, then a homeowner has to take care of that. This means that the homeowner runs the risk of not being able to take care of their mortgage, trying to take care of the repairs. So, in order to mitigate risk, banks will send appraisers. Appraisers are sent to confirm the property's condition, and if repairs are needed, the bank would often deny the loan to reduce risk. And that's where investors would step in, the investor being you, the fix and flipper. What you are going to hear a lot in this field is experience. How much experience do you have in fix and flipping? Is this your first fix and flip? Do you have multiple underneath your belt? The reason being is experienced investors estimate repairs better and have trusted contractors. But even beginners could do well now due to high inventory, due to it being a buyer's market. And I can help structure deals for both new and experienced investors. With that said, the more experience that you have in fix and flipping, the better deal you are going to get on things like the interest rate because you have that experience. But with that said, experience doesn't come from thin air. It's important to start somewhere. And what better day to start than today? If you didn't already do it yesterday, right? Homeowners with distressed properties typically have two options. And that is to pay to fix the house themselves, which a lot of time is rare because it wouldn't have gotten to the condition that it was at had they had the money to take care of it along the way. And then the other option is to sell to an investor, that being you, that being the fix and flipper. Now, investors ultimately get discounted prices because they take on the risk. Now, what are the risks, you say? Well, that would be the market change. Market changes, that would be repair surprises, that would be holding costs, interest, taxes, utilities, insurance. The market changes. That's the value. We don't know if it's going to go up in the next 3 to 6 months. We don't know if it's going to go down. Things could change, the market change, depending on external factors like interest rate, perhaps war, or again, market conditions. It's a risk the investor will ultimately have to take on. You have the unexpected repairs. So maybe you expect it to be a $25,000 job and you remove some sheetrock and you find another problem with the electricity. And now you have to shell out another 10 grand to fix the electrical work. And then you have the holding costs. So that's why an investor has to get a good deal for the risk that they are assuming. It has to be worth its while. So always budget at least 10 to 15% extra for unknown repairs. So ultimately, you want to make a profit from the fix and flip venture. And One way you could determine that amount would be reverse engineering. Now, what is reverse engineering? Reverse engineering is key. First, you would start with the ARV, that is the after repair value. So that's the amount that you believe you will be able to sell this house after all the repairs are done. So you take the ARV and you subtract your profit goal. And for the profit goal, you don't want to make less than 10%. So let's start with 10% margin. If you make more icing on the cake, but you want to see at least 10% return on your fix and flip venture. So you subtract your profit goal, you subtract repair costs, you subtract holding selling expenses, i.e. closing costs, loan fees, interest, market change. So for this example, say you have a house with the ARV, the after repair value being $400,000, and 10% of $400,000 is $40,000. You subtract that. The market change we're going to predict is 5%. That $400,000, that's $20,000. You subtract that. You're aware that the repairs are estimated to be $25,000. You subtract that. You factor in unknown repairs just in case. So we're going to go 10 to 15% of it, depending on the looks of the property. So you could be spending an additional $40,000 to $60,000 on unknown repairs. And you subtract your loan fees, your closing costs, and then you would have what would have to be your max offer in order for you to reap the benefit of exploring this fix and flip venture. So that would be, in this case, $231,000 or $251,000. That depends on how much money you are shelling out for the unknown repairs. Maybe you make more than this 10%. Maybe you make spot on 10%, but you don't want to make less than that. And again, if you make more than that, that is icing on the cake. Never exceed on this max offer, or it may not be a fruitful venture. Fix and flip loans make these deals possible. They're based on the property, not your personal income, and they offer high leverage, interest-only payments, and fast closing. Fast closing is giving investors a competitive edge. Now, 3 tips you're going to want to keep in mind when fix and flipping or venturing into one is you want to get multiple contractor bids. You want to always budget extra for surprises, those unknown repairs that we spoke of. And you want to work with lenders who specialize in investor loans. Now, one of the biggest mistakes new investors make is relying on a single contractor's estimate. You want to always get at least 3 different bids. Why is that? Because contractor pricing varies widely. Now, fortunately, some will overcharge you because they think you're inexperienced, while others might simply miss critical repairs altogether. So getting multiple bid offers does 2 things. 1, it gives you a realistic cost range so you can budget accurately and accordingly. And it helps you build a reliable team. Quickly see which contractors are professional, detailed, and on time with their estimates. Time is money. We do not want to play with our time. Time is a limited resource. So you getting multiple contractor bids, you'll be able to see who you would like to work with moving forward. This alone could protect thousands of dollars in your budget and help you avoid blown timelines. Now, understanding the market and interest rates. Interest rates reflect supply and demand. Now, as I said earlier, we're in a buyer's market right now because higher rates keep retail buyers on the sidelines. That being said, rates have been dipping down recently. but still on the high side. So that what a buyer's market is more houses are available due to them being harder to sell. So due to the interest rate being where it's at, homeowners with lower interest rates aren't buying as they typically would. They're holding out because they're waiting for the interest rates to dip. So in the buyer's market, it's easier to find deals and it's harder to sell. So the low demand, high rates. It being in a buyer's market, that gives you more inventory and negotiating power. So there's more houses in a buyer market because people aren't buying as much as they would in a seller's market. And then the opposite is true for a seller's market. In a seller's market, there are less houses. It's harder to find deals because they're easier to sell. They are selling like hotcakes. They're selling fast. So when you find one, you want to make good on it because it might not be out there for long. Now, profiting in a high rate buyer's market. As I stated before, the rates are coming down a bit by bit, but typically in the buyer's market, when the rates are high, the strategy is to buy now while inventory is high, renovate and repair the property, and you could refinance it into a DSCR loan. I made a video on a DSCR loan before. It's regarding debt service coverage ratio, which depends on the property's ability to generate revenue or income. It's based on rental income. There's no tax returns involved with a DSCR loan as long as the property is generating more revenue, more income than its expenses, that being the mortgage payment, the PIDIA, the principal, tax, interest, will you, then you could qualify for a DSCR loan. So the strategy here is you would buy the property at a discounted price, you would fix it, and then rather than you flat out flipping it right away because it could be harder to sell, you would refinance it into a longer term DSCR loan, and you would let your tenants pay the mortgage. Say if you have 4 units and they're each $1,000 a piece, and you're paying after mortgage payment and PIDIA, principal, interest, taxes, you're paying $2,500 a month. You're making $4,000 on that property over the $2,500 that is the expenses, meaning that you're generating more income than you're paying towards its expenses. Now the strategy here is when rates finally do drop, however long that may take, it could be 2 to 5 years, maybe it could be shorter than that, maybe it could be longer. Nobody has a crystal ball. But when they finally do, you have an option to be able to refinance again to a lower interest, or you could sell it then for your profit. And it'd be a lot easier to sell as well. So as we just went over, fixing rent option is an alternative strategy, And that strategy there is instead of selling it immediately, you will hold it for 2 to 5 years as a rental. You put it in a DSCR loan, and then you will refinance later for a better cash flow or sell when the market improves. And the long-term rental would build wealth. A beautiful part about this is while you're making payments on this, while your tenants are making payments on it ultimately because they're paying their rent and you're using their rent to pay the mortgage and the principal and the taxes and interest, you're still acquiring equity on the home. When the rates finally do drop, as I stated before, you have the option of keeping it as a long-term rental and refinancing into that lower interest rate, or you can make your flip. Whichever you choose, you would have the power. Now, in a buyer's market versus a seller's market, In a buyer's market, focus on buying, fixing, refinancing, and renting. In a seller's market, you're going to rely on speed, light cosmetic flips, and appreciation. That's going to matter the most. So in the fix and flip, the seller's market, you close quickly with hard money. You focus on light cosmetic flips because it's easier to sell the home in the seller's market because everybody wants them. The interest rates are great, and they're going to sell like this. And you take advantage of appreciation, and you look for off-market deals where sellers want fast closings. Off-market deals are gold. Motivated sellers still exist. And with that, I want to thank you for taking time to explore fix and flips loan with me. It means a lot to share this knowledge with you. And I look forward to working with you to structure your deals and explore scenarios. So you can speak directly with me at 743-330-1454 or my email njones@nexamortgage.com. I will leave both down in the description below. They are also found on my website 𝗙𝗶𝘅 powered by NEXA Mortgage LLC. On 𝗙𝗶𝘅.com, you could click the Apply Now button if you are interested in pursuing further. Submit the information that we will need to move forward in submitting your application and getting you started on that venture. So again, my name is Nico Jones. I'm with NEXA Mortgage LLC. And as always, cool beans, I look forward to speaking with you further.